Facebook here. Yeah.
Wow, nice. Are we recording this evening?
So we're just going to live stream to Facebook. We're live right now, I think. And the recording will be up there for folks to see. Is that cool with you, John?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. So I'm just going to go in here and somewhere I should be able to mute all participants.
I see a mute all right above the word chat.
Yeah. All right. So everyone should be muted now. And I'm just going to give this quick update on the club. And yes, okay, I think we're good. So here we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our September meeting of the Western Pennsylvania Mushroom Club. I'm your current president.
Stephen, you got muted.
Ah,
There you go.
was I muted that whole time? Okay.
Bad.
All right. So you should have received your copy of the September-October newsletter earlier this month. There's a lot of great articles in there, including this one on what makes the velvet foot mushroom grow, Flammulina volutipes. Really loved Thomas's presentation, if you were able to catch it 2 months ago in July. If you weren't able to see that, it should still be on our Facebook page. So yeah, we've had a number of walks since our last meeting. Up first was August 20th at Churchill Valley Greenway. This is a newer property owned by Allegheny Land Trust. The following day, we hosted our Dye Day event in North Park. That included walks in the morning, followed by a workshop that Judy led, teaching folks how to create dyes using mushrooms. So that was a pretty awesome event. I know we found a lot of really cool mushrooms in North Park that day. I mean, look at all the boletes on the table there. Somehow I keep getting muted. I keep saying the host muted me. I am the host. Anyway, next walk we had was September 10th at Wingfield Pines. That's another Allegheny Land Trust property, and Julie led that walk. All right, and then we get into the 4A weekend. So on September 16th, I announced a last-minute pop-up walk in Cook Forest on Thursday night, and a crew of people met me at the old logging road trailhead, and we took some ultraviolet flashlights out into the forest and looked for anything that was glowing in response to that light. So we found a number of different fluorescent mushroom species, as well as a number of arthropods that were glowing that were pretty interesting as well. And I wrote up an article for this that'll be in the next newsletter if you wanted to know more about what that experience is like and some of what we found. So that was pretty awesome. And then the next morning, still in Cook Forest, was our pre-4A walk. We had at least 54 people in attendance. That's how many people are in the group photo here. And yeah, a lot of the guest mycologists that we had in town for the 4A came to this event as well. So we had Walt Sturgeon there, Jacob Polk, Leon Chernoff, you know, and all of the identifiers and mycologists from our club that were in attendance as well. So a lot of people there. We found so many different mushrooms. I mean, we filled, I think, 6 picnic tables full of boats of all the different species. So really impressive display there. Yeah, it was a beautiful weekend to be up in Cook Forest. And of course, we had the main event on Saturday in North Park. So here's a few photos. I mean, if any of you are in the Facebook group, there's just tons of photos flooding in from the weekend. I think Kara started a Google Photos album that people can upload stuff to. So a lot of stuff can be found on there, but these are a couple highlights. You know, our guest speakers were Leon Chernoff and Michael Kuo. They gave some really engaging presentations inside the Rose Barn, and then did a really wonderful table talk at the end of the day with John Plischke. Kim Plischke gave a cooking demo. 5 different folks from the club led walks in the morning. We covered a really good chunk of North Park, a lot of different habitats, and we ended up with a lot of different species on the ID tables by the end of the day. So really wonderful day. Thanks so much to everyone who was there. And to wrap up our mushroom-filled weekend, we had Science Sunday, also in North Park at the Rose Barn. And we had, I think, 30 or 40 people in attendance. And we had 4 lectures followed by some workshops throughout the day. And again, just another really awesome event. Everyone's presentation was just incredible. Scott gave a great talk on boletes. Richard blew my mind, teaching me about microscopy. And Kara gave a really wonderful talk on, you know, how do you photograph mushrooms in a way that really helps you identify them? So thanks so much to our speakers and to the folks that came out for that event. And of course, thank you so much to all of the volunteers it took to make all of these events happen. I mean, I made a list here, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We've got at least 15 names here of people who played a major role in everything that happened this weekend. And I know I'm forgetting at least 5 or 10 other people, right? Like, it took so many volunteers to make this happen. So many people put in work, you know, from like months leading up to this to the day of. And just want to send a huge, huge thank you to anyone who volunteered their time in any way to make these events happen. Huge thanks to Fluff, our 4A chair, Richard for kind of organizing Science Sunday, Garrett for really taking the lead at Cook Forest and getting us organized there, and for all his time at the ID tables. Kara for leading walks and giving presentations. John for being one of our guest mycologists and helping with IDs at the 4A, and for your table talk. Jerry Sapp was a walk leader and identifier. Cecily and Julie really helped a lot with our silent auction, and helped with a million other odds and ends throughout the day. Kim for the cooking demo, Carissa for registration, Aaron and Jared for your work at the sales table, Scott for being a Science Sunday presenter, and last but certainly not least, our dear Mike Henry here, for organizing the mushroom feast and all of the folks who brought dishes to share on Saturday. Again, I said, I know I'm probably forgetting a lot of names, a lot of people, but those are the ones that I remembered. So thanks to you and to everyone I forgot. Yeah, if we were in person, I would say a huge round of applause for all of those folks, because it was a tremendous effort on everyone's part. Woo! All right. Moving along then. Oh, one final announcement. I didn't get this slide in before we started, but do you see these beautiful t-shirts these folks are wearing? There was a limited edition 4A t-shirt this year. The first time we've made a t-shirt explicitly for the Linkoff 4A, and some folks were really bummed that we ran out of shirts in their size. And the good news is, if you would like one of these t-shirts, all you have to do is contact Jared Delaney, our club treasurer, send him, your information in terms of what size shirt you want and how many of each shirt. And as long as we get enough folks who are interested, Jared is considering putting in another order for t-shirts so that we can get them to everyone who wants one. Did I cover everything, Jared? Anything you wanted to add? All right. I'm glad I remembered that. All right. So that's past events. In terms of upcoming events, on October 5th, there's a walk at Audubon Greenway with Allegheny Land Trust. So that'll be Julie Travellini leading that walk, and probably some other folks helping with identification. Audubon Greenway is an incredible place. I love to go hiking there in the meadows. Not sure how it'll be for mushrooms, but I'm sure it'll be pretty good. Also, we've got a walk that was just announced on October 3rd. That's going to be with Jared White at Hillman State Park. That's a Sunday, I believe, and you're going to meet at the Hall Road Trailhead at 11 a.m. All right, and that's up on our website as well as our Facebook group. And then the following weekend, you can join Richard Jacob at Townsend Park in Murraysville, and you can meet him in the parking lot at 10 a.m. Also on October 9th, we've got Mushroom Day at Beechwood Farms. So if you didn't have a chance to get your field guide signed by Walt Sturgeon at the 4A, this is a chance for you to get one of your books signed by him again. And also John Plischke will be there. So if you don't already own a copy of one of Walt's field guides or John's book, highly recommended. They're really helpful field guides, really entertaining reads, and it'd be really awesome to get your copy autographed by the author. They'll be there from 1 to 3. We'll be there selling mushroom merchandise from 9 to 5, and Beechwood Farms will be open during that time as well, selling other kinds of mushroom merchandise. So yeah, we'll see you at Beechwood on the 9th. And of course, we have our monthly meetings. The November meeting is probably going to be canceled unless somehow, there's a miracle vaccine discovered that protects against Delta, and we get through this wave of the pandemic and it's okay to gather indoors and do that kind of stuff again. So for now, I'm going to save the date and just see if there's any interest in folks getting together on Zoom anyways, for just like identifying mushrooms and chit-chatting, but we won't be having an in-person meeting. I think our default for now is probably going to be virtual unless we feel it's safe to gather in person. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. And of course, our October meeting is going to be focused on the photo contest. So make sure, if you've been taking any pictures of mushrooms or even mushroom related pictures, that you submit as many entries as you want, up to 5, to Sarah Klingensmith. The email address is down here at the bottom of the slide, and there's no file size limit to your files this year. In the past, they had to be under 4 megabytes or something, so no size limit this year. So if you have a fancy camera or even one of those new smartphones that takes big megapixel photos, you don't have to edit them down to the right size anymore. So yeah, send in your photos by September 30th, and maybe you'll win a prize. Our membership report, we're up to 1,278 members as of today. So that is, again, a record-setting number of members for the club. So huge thank you to everyone who has joined this year. It really means a lot to see so much support for this club and the work that we do to organize mushroom events throughout the region. And if you're watching the live stream or the recording of this and you're not already a member, here's some information about dues and benefits. And other benefits that you get aside from the ones listed on the screen are you get a copy of our bi-monthly newsletter, updates on mushroom walks and events, and if we're able to host in-person meetings next year, mushroom grow kit. Also, if you join at this point in the year, you get next year's membership as well. So if you pay for this year, we just include you on to next year too. So it's a wonderful time to join. We still have a couple events left this year, and then you get all of next year. All right, next up, we wanted to recognize some club members for their achievements in the mushroom identification realm. We have our Button ID program that we award at various levels to recognize, people's efforts to learn the different mushrooms that grow around here. We have 3 people we want to recognize tonight. And Julie, did you want to announce these folks?
Sure. I have to leave my video off. My internet is uncooperative the last couple of days, but 2 folks who just in the last 48 hours earned some buttons was Lauren Nagota, who earned her 75. She's actually super close to 100. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of weeks she earns her 100 button as well. And Shannon also earned his 100 button. And I know he has a goal of 150. So look for them fairly soon to be turning in more mushroom IDs. So thank you to them for having a nice, tidy, organized iNaturalist account that I could very easily look through and double check their mushrooms. So congratulations to those guys.
All right.
And last but not least, Sarah Klingon-Smith, whose name you've already heard this meeting, because she is our photo chair. So you need to send all of your awesome mushroom pictures to her. She is our latest identifier and 150 button recipient. So congratulations, Sarah. And hopefully you can lead some walks really soon.
Yay. Congrats to everyone. Great job on your work getting out there and continuing to discover the different mushrooms that grow around here. All right, we're almost to the end here. So like I said, next month's meeting is the announcement of the photo contest results, and we'll also have our election. So be there so that you can vote early and often. Yeah. And I think Sarah said she has not received many entries yet for the photo contest. So if you're like, I don't know, my photos aren't the best, I probably wouldn't win anything anyways, send them in. We'd love to see your photos. Everyone is welcome to participate, and odds are pretty good that you might win a prize since there aren't that many entries yet this year. All right. Any other questions or announcements before I introduce tonight's speaker? Oh, I see in the chat, someone said they'd love to see past winners photos. If you go onto our website, they're on there. There's, I think, a whole tab at the top that says photo contest. And if you scroll through that page and read the details on the photo contest, there's a link to see past year's winners and non-winners. So you can see the whole the whole batch of photos that were submitted for last year. Yeah, no
I did
problem.
have something I wanted to say. I again wanted to thank everyone for all of their help for the fray. I mean, I can't believe how much, it's like Steve, Richard, of all, Mike and Tim and all of you guys, Cecily, everyone. Like, I can't even say just how much every one of you did to help with everything, and I really appreciate it. And if my body wasn't at severe exhaustion levels, I would have helped even more if I could have. But thank you all so much. You guys are all amazing, and I really appreciate everything.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kara. All right. And I see Richard put the link to the website in the chat where we post the photo entries from previous
Yeah,
years.
Barb too. That's right.
Yeah,
Barb. Not forgetting anyone. I just saying all the names is just hard because you guys all did so much.
I know there's so many people whose names I don't even know because I was just overwhelmed and didn't have time to talk to everyone and thank them. But yeah, my apologies if I forgot you. It's not personal. All right. Well, without further ado, I will introduce John Michelotti. So John Michelotti and friends founded and cultivated Catskill fungi in Big Indian, New York. As former president of the Mid-Hudson Mycological Association, John co-founded the Catskill Region Mycoflora Project, as well as the Gary Linkoff Memorial Scholarship. He served on the Mushroom Advisory Panel for Certified Naturally Grown to develop ecological standards in mushroom production. John has presented at the New York Botanical Gardens, Telluride Mushroom Festival, and North American Mycological Association Annual Foray, in addition to several colleges and universities. His goal is to educate and inspire people to work with fungi to improve their health, communities, and the environment. So yeah, with that said, I'll turn things over to John.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. Oh my gosh, the foray just sounded so incredible. It really did. It was actually something I was trying very hard to get to, and unfortunately was not able to make it out this year. However, I dearly miss it. It's something that's always been on my list. It's been on my list for years to come out to the Gary Linkoff Memorial Foray, especially as a student of Gary Linkoff and devotee of mushrooms. And now I'm even more excited to come out just based on that amazing warm welcome, that incredible presentation, Stephen, and just like it's so evident how much fun you had and how many great people there are involved in the club and helping out. I'm sure Gary would be very, very proud and very, feel great about that whole experience. It's really wonderful that y'all are doing that, especially in the name of Gary. And that's like really one of the things that, it's the reason why I'm here is because of Gary. Like I definitely would not be, I might not even be interested in mushrooms, but I'm definitely here because of Gary's inspiration. But I do want to also thank everybody from the Western Pennsylvania Mushroom Club. Yes, Cecily has been back and forth with me with emails and very patient throughout this process. And it's great to meet you, Stephen, and I know Kara, Julie, and Jared, everybody on the board for pulling through, and Richard Jacob too for the website and posts and things like that. So thank you all for making this presentation happen as well. I really appreciate it. And as we go, there's going to be, I probably don't have to go over the Zoom tutorial. I'm pretty sure everybody seems to have figured most of this out. Oh, you know what though, just in case, the chat box is on the side. You can look for it, and if you want to, we're having secret conversations in there. So feel free to just click on the chat box and join in. Yeah, you guys probably understand that. And thank you so much for that dear welcoming intro. I don't even need to go over this. Yeah, but recently became a mushroom poison identification consultant for the North American Mycological Association, and presently working on the Northeast Mycological Federation annual foray, which I just want to plug real quick. It's going to be the first weekend in December. Info is going to be coming out soon, but we're going to have like 15 different mycologists. It's going to be virtual, so anybody can tune in, and we're going to be doing, you can buy for one day, for both days. I think it's going to be a Friday, Saturday. And we're going to have everything from speakers like Trad Cotter, Juliana Furci is keynoting that Friday night. We have some new people like Joao Arujo, who's going to be taking over for Roy Halling at the New York Botanical Gardens as lead mycologist, curator. And he has studied entomopathic fungi all over the world. So it's going to be interesting. The big mix of different speakers and presenters. So you're welcome to come to that. There's going to be breakout rooms where you get to kind of ask questions to the different presenters, and breakout rooms for the vendors and things like that. So anyway, more info on that later. I'll be sure to send more info to Cecily, and you know, they'll get it out in the newsletter, and hopefully I'll see a lot of familiar faces there too. But as I said, you know, I'm really a devotee of fungi and Gary's legacy, and I really wouldn't be here without them. So you know, that's, and I'm delighted to be giving this presentation to y'all, especially with such close connections to Gary. So you know, just an overview of this program of what, you know, you can expect over the next hour is you know, I'm sure some of the people out there are new to mushrooms, and some are hobbyists and hobbyist mushroom people. Some are solid devotees, I'm sure, and some have already quit their job and devoted their life to mushrooms. And you know, this takes place in all different forms, but we all found mushrooms somehow, or somehow they found us. And tonight I'd like to just talk about the next hour and tell you about how mushrooms and Gary changed the story of my life and inspired me to quit my job and devote my life to fungi. So we're going to highlight some other people in our mycelial network that I was touched by, that I reached out to and asked their advice on how they quit their jobs and devoted their life to mushrooms. And I'm hoping that through sharing the lessons and stories that I learned on my journey from other people, that you will have the knowledge and passion to also quit your job and devote your life to mushrooms. And I'm happy to answer questions as they come up. Feel free to put them in the chat box, and I can kind of answer them as we go. Yeah. So just to start it all off, it was 2009 was my first mushroom event and presentation, and it was Gary Linkoff, and it was wild because I was cooking with a friend of mine, and she and we would pick one thing to cook for a month, and we picked mushrooms one time. And I'm somebody that really likes to grow my own food and forage my own things, and I realized I didn't know anything about mushrooms. And so my friend tipped me off that there are these mushroom clubs that you can join and, you know, learn from these mushroom people. And I said, really? And so he looked something up and he said, actually, there's a presentation tomorrow night by some guy named Gary Linkoff, and he's talking about psilocybin mushrooms. And I said, well, it sounds interesting enough. So during that presentation, this is with the Connecticut Westchester Mycological Association, another excellent group that I'm still a member of. And during this presentation, somebody had foraged cubensis. And it was kind of like in the back of the presentation. So there was like one room that everybody was sitting down in, and there was a presentation. And then you kind of walk to the back and behind, and through that was the bathroom. Through the next room was the bathroom. And people had spread out mushrooms, as they normally do, on those tables for people to talk about and identify. And somebody had just left, you know, a pretty big bunch of cubensis that was foraged at mulch in a nearby park. And over the course of the night, the pile just kind of gets smaller and smaller until it was the end of the night. And, that we've cleaned up, the presentation is over, and we're kind of the last ones in the room. And somebody offered Gary, the rest of these mushrooms, to which he casually upturned his palm, smacked his lips, rolled his eyes, and just tossed the rest of the mushrooms in his vest pocket. I couldn't see those go to waste. So the first mushroom walk I ever went on was with Gary. And he was somebody that was just so good with beginners. I remember walking up to him one time with just like this like really interesting like jelly on a leaf, and I was just like, what? Wow, what is this? And he was like, well, it's bird poop, but it's nice bird poop. He never shunned anybody away. I'm sure y'all know this. Like he never cast anybody aside. He was always patient and kind, and like, even though I'm sure he's described it a million other times, he talked us through turkey tail and the difference between turkey tail and Stearium hirsuta, and I'm sorry I spelled that wrong on the bottom, and then Trichaptum biforme, and the different underneaths where your turkey tail has these pores, these little tiny dots, almost like they're a little pin cushion that somebody poked, whereas your violet tooth polypore has those bristles, those kind of like almost like a cat's tongue bristles underneath, and your false turkey tail has kind of a very smooth undersurface. And then on the bottom right, you can kind of see lensites, which kind of has like a gill-like underneath side. But it was amazing to see how patient he was after I can't even imagine how many times he explained that. And like, who knew that like years later, I would make my first extract from turkey tail and go on to produce mushroom extracts for my community. But I want to, of course, give over an overview of the life cycle of fungi, of at least your Basidio mycetes and mycota, and how, you have these mushrooms that make spores, which are microscopic and in the air all around us, and spores land on a substrate or something they like to grow in, and they send out hyphae, which when they connect with a similar compatible DNA, they fuse together and create mycelium mat. And the mycelium is kind of the living body of fungi that's alive 365 days a year. And so from this mycelial mat, when conditions are perfect, generally after good rain and seasonality plays in a big part, the mycelium pools its energy together and fruits a mushroom. So mushrooms make spores, spores make mycelium, mycelium makes mushrooms. And, there's just, so it's all the same fungi. It's all the same species of fungi, but it takes many different forms. Just like our interests with fungi take many different forms. And so a lot of the big influencing people over the course of my life took many different forms. They were all interested in mushrooms and fungi in different ways. Some called themselves amateurs, some called themselves professionals, some experts, and everything in between. But most have been very helpful and lend a mycelial thread. And we will look at some of these people, and we're going to look at what some of those words mean. But yeah, we're going to look at what some of these words mean before we start looking at some of these notable people in our life. So devote, to devote, commitment comes from the heart. And, like Gary said, you don't need anything. You don't need anything at all except what you can't give up, which is your freedom. And that's what I maintained. And this is kind of like what he devoted his life to. And he devoted, there's all different kinds of definitions to devote. Like, give a large part of one's time or resources to a person, activity, or cause, such as like, I want to devote more time to my family, like the Polyporaceae, Agaricaceae, Boletaceae. It's important that we devote we devote time to our families. So anyway, there's all sorts of ways in which you can devote and ways in which you can define it. But just like the word amateur, and there's a ton of different names for amateur, but the root of amateur is defined by one who loves. And this goes back, one who is a loves or is a lover of, from Old French amour and from Latin. And so it's kind of your past principle to love. And I think with a definition like that, I think we can all get on board. We can all consider ourselves amateur mycologists, I'd hope. And I know Gary did. I mean, we're sure of that because, he wrote about that. He wrote, these delectable poems, which you can still find on GaryLinkoff.com. But one of my very favorites that he did perform multiple times at the Telluride Mushroom Festival, I'd like to recite as well. I am the very model of an amateur mycologist, and often tend to think myself a good agaricologist. I know mushrooms that are good for you and others that are magical, and how to tell the good from bad and bad from worse and tragical. I'm very well acquainted, too, with matters microscopical. I understand cystidia, both pluro and dramatical. In mushroom cultivation, too, I claim as well to know my share with many secret formulae for growing mushrooms in thin air. I'm very good at doing taxonomical analysis. I know the scientific names of mushrooms that are poisonous. In short, if you're in need of a good agaricologist, I am the very model of an amateur mycologist. Many other versions to that, verses as well. So as far as that goes, there's this other definition of professional, which I beg that is not opposite from amateur. And, if you sell one mushroom or, get paid for anything mushroom related, you can consider yourself a professional, because by definition it is someone who gets paid for a certain thing. So one who does something for a living, potentially, or having displayed skill and knowledge. So the root word for professional comes from the Latin word profere, which means to promise. And in ancient Rome, a person became a professional by standing in public and stating out loud what promises would be kept. And I think these days we do that with a website or online videos. Gary had his books and his website and newsletters as presentations as well. So now, expert is a very different thing, and it is different from a professional. Another definition of expert is defined by someone who has made every mistake possible. And seeing that we only really have scientific names for about 10% of fungi, out of the 2.10 or 2 to 10 million species of fungi, I don't even think it's possible to have made every mistake possible, because we haven't even made all the mistakes yet. So I don't know if anybody can say that, they are, an expert in certain ways in terms of mycology. But I think if there were anybody out there, it'd probably be Tom Volk, who Gary did consider was one of the greatest mycologists alive today. And, Tom also considered Gary to be a professional and expert, despite not having any formal degree in mycology. So kind of going back, we're back to these first mushroom walks I'm going on, and most of these were with the Connecticut Westchester Mycological Association for me, just getting started. And I really rearranged my schedule to join as many mushroom walks as I possibly could. And I met a lot of really amazing people, like David Rose, who is an archivist and mushroom devotee. He found a way to convince others to pay him for studying mushrooms and mycology. he is an archivist and writer. He's really done some amazing things. The Charles Horton Peck papers, a lot of things with the New York State Museum. And in his spare time, he also writes for Fungi magazine and helps with the John Cage Memorial Foray. What's that, you say? Well, who's John Cage? John Cage was a world famous composer who found inspiration in fungi for his music. So this gentleman was somebody that, and I love this quote from him, that often I go into the woods thinking after all these years, I ought to finally be bored with fungi, he wrote in his diary. But coming upon just any mushroom in good condition, I lose my mind all over again. And he really was somebody that, at least in this area, inspired a lot of people. And in other parts of the world, in 1959, on a visit to Europe, Cage participated in an Italian game show and chose mushrooms as his specialty subject. Think carefully, Mr. Cage, warned the host Mike Bongiorno at the 5 million lira question. You must tell us 24 names of white spored agaricus contained in the Atkins's Studies of American Fungi. To much of the audience surprise, the composer confidently responded, I can enumerate the list alphabetically. He won top prize of $10,000 and used the money to buy a piano and a Volkswagen bus for his partner, Maurice Cunningham's new dance company. So in 1962, John Cage co-founded the New York Mycological Society along with some of his students from the New School. And in 1960, Cage made a living regularly by supplying New York with restaurants with a variety of different mushrooms like the Four Seasons. And we all know that New York Mycological Society, or we may not all know this, but New York Mycological Society was Gary's window into mycology, which in turn inspired so much for all of us. So really, John Cage here was one of these, amazing people that really, we also can honor as well. And so we do that in the Northeast here through the John Cage Memorial, annual. It's like a biannual foray, but we haven't had it since COVID. But it's really a lot of fun. And this is just like a really good reminder that the work we're doing now is really on the shoulders of giants who devoted their life to mushrooms. And another person I really want to bring your attention is Paul Sadowski. And Paul Sadowski was inspired also by John Cage to get involved in mycology. And he became active in New York Mycological Society. And he taught at the New York Botanical Gardens. And through him, and I think from a lot of other people, that's kind of, and because of Paul and Gary's good graces, that I think I was very fortunate to be invited to speak at the New York Botanical Gardens as well and teach there, which I do regularly. But yeah, he and I were 4A chairs for the NEMF 2017 annual foray. And he really he's still extremely very involved in the New York Mycological Society. He's helping us organize the NEMF foray this year as well, and is somebody that really has inspired a lot of people into mycology throughout the years. So Zach Chavez. Zach he was at the first mushroom walk I ever went on. And when I met Zach, he was making his own backpack and shoes out of recycled bicycle tires and biking all over Fairfield and Westchester counties, and which are just suburbs of New York City. And he was foraging all over the place. And Zach taught me that, things are not what they seem, and society doesn't determine who you are. And so without a degree, he has been able to prove his intelligence and knowledge humbly. And as a Harvard calls on him and explores islands off the coast of Boston, conducting species surveys with Larry Millman. So over the years, he's switched his job many times, but he's always stayed devoted to fungi. So we're happy to have him back. Actually, just moved back to Connecticut. So he's back with Coma once again, which is a very strong club. So yeah, very grateful for Zach to kind of like changing the mind of like, you don't always need a degree. It's not like you need to, a lot of the times when we think we want something, rather than thinking, I'm just going to go get that something, we think, oh, well, I don't have this something that I have to get before that something. And maybe I need to get this something first before I can get that something. And it's really like, you don't necessarily need a degree to kind of study fungi. You can just go ahead and do it. So yeah, very grateful for Zach for kind of shifting my mind. And now, it's 2011 and I was getting serious with mushrooms. I had now completely switched my schedule around. I was reading books at work. I was going on every mushroom walk I could. I was peeling through Paul Stamets' book, Mycelium Running and Growing Mushrooms. And I really still do look up to Paul Stamets and wanted to learn from him a lot in my younger 20s. But his classes really weren't accessible. They were on the other side of the country and they were way more expensive than I could afford, which was a bummer. But I still learned a lot, even just through his writings. And instead, I went to Ecuador. I spent a month in Ecuador learning mushroom cultivation and microremediation, medicinal mushroom tincture making from a group of chemists, biologists, microbiologists, international bioremediators. And it was very inspiring and a big boost in my education. And so from there, when I got home, and these are just like some of these amazing fungi that you'll find out there, like especially the Pavalacia calicera. That's like one of the most beautiful mushrooms. And then on the bottom left, you can kind of see some of the Ganoderma lucidum we're growing on straw. And on the top right, you can see some of these microremediation experiments where in those baskets, in layers of burlap and sawdust that we got from a broomstick factory and a variety of different things, we mix that and we're growing Pleurotus austriatus, some oyster mushrooms out on that, which we then introduced with some toxic soil that was from a nearby garage, and we kind of like layered it, and we're testing different contamination ratios to see which one, how it remediated. And then on the table, kind of in the center, you'll see these like little yellow tubes, and those we were using as a plant assay, where you plant peas or beans in there and then water them with the water coming from the baskets, and then based on what dilution of water that you water from the baskets, you can kind of understand something about at least like this is a super low tech assay. I mean, this is like in the jungle with no power kind of assay that you can utilize for growing mushrooms. So that whole field has a long way to go, but I'm telling you, if this is what interests you and you're feeling called to microremediation or ways in which fungi can, the way that mycelium grows, it's excreting enzymes into its environment, which can break down lignin, which is a very hard chemical chain. And then not only can it break down lignin, but they can learn to grow and break down other chemicals and compounds and difficult, these complex rings of hydrocarbons. They can be severed into smaller chains and aid in remediation. So if this is something that you're interested in, once again, this is like a big thing to kind of devote your life to. And when I got back from Ecuador from this trip, I was pretty much talking about mushrooms nonstop. I really haven't stopped. And I would really just teach anybody who is willing to listen. Including my nephews here who started inoculating early. And this guy in the middle here, this is Riley. He's now 14, and he's actually, he's in the Complete Mushroom Hunter Revised. teaching a group of people at a log inoculation workshop I hosted just about, gosh, it must have been like 4 years ago. So he's really come a long way. He's still out there. He identified chicken mushroom at like the age of 6, which was like a big win there. So never too young to get him started. But all right. So I led my first mushroom walk with Coma, and that was it. That must have been 2012 or 13, and then I started really just learning from as many people as I could. I went and I visited every mushroom farm that would let me through the door. I visited the largest mushroom farm, the biggest ones, the smallest ones, and including, some of these pictures in Kennett Square is the biggest mushroom farms. I mean, they're still producing like 48% of fresh mushrooms consumed in the United States, in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. They have a mushroom festival every year. I haven't made it to it, but like even the stores in the main street of Kennett Square, they just normally have mushroom things everywhere. So it's just one of these things to check out if you ever want to take a road trip. I can't even imagine how far that is from you guys. How far would Kennett Square be? Somebody type that in the chat box. It could be a field trip. Could be a field trip in our future. So out of all these mushroom farms, I was just looking to see how people turned mushroom growing into a full-time lifestyle. And if you're drawn to this, there are many facets in which you can grow mushrooms and make it work. And there's many networks out there to help support you in this. And I'm happy to share some resources. Like these guys on the bottom right, this was like 2 dudes that in Puerto Rico that I that I was down there, and they were doing work in containers. There's actually somebody in Detroit, Fungi Freights, Tess, is doing container training, how to take an old truck container and turn it into a grow room. And so this is what they did here in this grow room. This was like one of their fruiting chambers. And then they had 2 other ones, a lab and another room. But unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of, and this was back in 2012, there really wasn't a lot of popularity in mushrooms. So they're actually selling their compost. They're actually making more money on selling their compost than they were their mushrooms. They were known to have like the best compost on the island because it's this like fresh mushroom compost, and they still got some like mushrooms fruiting out of those. So once again, there's all sorts of creative ways in which to make this happen. And I really feel like as far as cultivation goes, like there's a big market for some of these medicinal mushrooms that sell for higher price brackets. They may take longer to fruit, but the prices that people are getting are quite high. And honestly, like I'm a big fan of local, like everything that I'm doing with my company presently, it's really just like for this community. It's for like, I'm a big fan of that. And, I buy local honey and I sell at farmers markets and I buy a lot of farmers markets, and like, that's kind of what I like. And I feel like there's so many different spaces that could be benefited by local growers and makers and producers. So I don't know if Tug is still as a club there. Gosh, I haven't seen Tug in a long time. Not since the New Moon Mycological Summit. We were walking through finding ergot on some of the rye that was around there. It was really cool. I've never actually seen it before then. But yeah, he just found it between like the campsites. But gosh, yeah, it's been a long time. But yeah, he's still around. I know he and Will Padilla Brown still go out. Yeah. Oh, what's up, Garrett? Gosh, I haven't seen you in a while either. Thanks for coming. So other professionals that I kind of want to highlight. So it was like, okay, so it was 2012, and now I'm just touring all these mushroom farms, and I landed at Ecovative Design, which is it's in Troy, New York, which is just about a couple hours north of me. And I visited them, and it was founded by Evan Bayer, Gavin McIntyre. And at the time, they were students at RPI that came up with this idea. They were growing mushrooms in 5-gallon buckets in their dorm room. And they realized that these things were really good at binding things together. And so they decided to create a product to bind things together. And so they created a replacement to styrofoam, which you can see on the top right there. That's basically mycelium growing on agricultural waste. So after, they harvest corn, or after, in other parts of the world, or this part of the world, after you harvest rice, you can take all those hulls from the corn, from the rice, you can grind them up, pasteurize them, inoculate them with mycelium, and then they put them in a form so that so that the mycelium grows into kind of maybe like a corner for a TV that they can ship instead of styrofoam, which is really a great idea because this stuff is biodegradable. You can break it apart after you use it as packaging, shipping packages, break it apart, put it in your garden, and it breaks down within a matter of months. So really brilliant solution to a global problem right now, straight up problem that we're still making styrofoam. But it was during their senior year at RPI that they pitched this project, and it got picked up, and they got grant funding, and then they got more grant funding, and they expanded the project, and they grew into an even larger company. And now, it just kind of continuously expands. I check in with these guys regularly, and they're generally always hiring. They always have different positions they're hiring. And just last night I checked, and now they have different branches because they like to focus on R&D, or research and design. And then they kind of expand out and they license out the packaging to different companies. And I think there's like 5 companies around the world that are growing this ecovative packaging material. So the other things they've expanded to was leathers, making mycelial leathers, cosmetic products with this mycofoam. And what that is, and Mycoflex is they grow the mycelium through the substrate, and then in a pressurized environment, they get the mycelium to grow above the substrate. So now you have just like this solid cake of mycelium. So there's no burls in there or anything else. And so this is what they're using as like cosmetic wipes. It's very soft, very durable. They're looking at it with leathers. There's a variety of other companies out there like Milo that's looking, they teamed up with Adidas, and they're going to be making a shoe that has this stuff in it. Tom Volk's graduate student that graduated with Tom a while ago. She was the one that was doing the studies on Pleurotus. Oh man, what's that? What's the yellow Pleurotus? Citrinum? What is the yellow Pleurotus? Somebody else type it in the chat box if you don't mind. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. The yellow Pleurotus, she was doing studies on it kind of escaped the lab here in New York, and it kind of appeared in all these different counties up and down the Hudson River. And it turns out that it was like one strain that a certain number of farmers were growing. And now it's just like, you see it all over the place now here in the Northeast. And like, what environmental implications does that have? We really just don't even understand. But yes, thank you. So yeah, Citrino Pleiades. And so anyway, she graduated, got her, I don't know if she was going for a graduate or a doctorate, but now she's like one of the head mycologists for Milo. So yeah, it's one of these things that, there's all these different ways. I mean, there's ways in which you can start on the ground floor and kind of work your way up, like in any one of these companies, and work your way up. And for some people that's what it is. Devoting their life means to like link up with one of these really amazing companies and see what you can grow together. But also the At Last is the newest company, and that has everything to do with a meat replacement. And so they're using this mycelium, once again grown above the substrate, as a scaffolding, and then they pump it full of like plant-based proteins, and they're making like the first product they came out with is like a bacon. And so that's going to be launching next year. So there's all different opportunities. And honestly, when I first gave this presentation, there wasn't like half of these things going on. There is so much more going on right now with fungi. Like, y'all are definitely not the only ones that are seeing like a massive spike in membership in clubs like across the country. People are just like, at Telluride, people were all talking about how it was like 15-20% jump. Like, people are buzzing about this stuff, and there's not a lot of places they can go for it. So it's really great to that y'all are putting together as much as you are to really get the information out there to all of our communities. And yeah, really grateful for that. You should feel really good that the audience is getting broader and broader. So it was 2013 that I moved to a family farm in the rural Catskills, in a town called Big Indy, a very small town. And this town is about 2 hours north of New York City. Yeah, but it feels like a world away. It's literally just rolling hills and streams and mountains. I mean, it is remote. You get snowed in, it gets like, better have enough of what you need. It's 20 minutes to a grocery store. It's 30 minutes to the nearest stoplight. And it's only 2 hours from New York City. Anyway, so I moved up here to Big Indian, which, by the way, was Gordon Wasson's favorite place to hunt mushrooms. So here's another amateur that changed the face of mycology. So, 2000, it was 1927. He had a honeymoon with his wife, Valentina, who was actually the mushroom hunter. She was super involved in mushrooms and very interested. And they went up there, and she was giddy at the mushrooms that she was finding, which reminded her of mushrooms that she knew back home. And from that, his interest was sparked. And from there, he started traveling around the world studying mushrooms. He went down and met Maria Sabina in Mexico. He may have been he was definitely one of the first people in North America that ate hallucinogenic mushrooms, and was somebody that really changed the course of this by writing this Life magazine in 1959 and May 13th, 1957, where he coined the term magic mushrooms. And this kind of changed the course of a lot of history. So so it was kind of about this time that Gary gave a few presentations. This is like 2013, 2014, and the presentation was called "Quit Your Job and Devote Your Life to Mushrooms." And at the Coma Foray, actually, this is in the Adirondacks, but at the Coma Foray included my picture in the slideshow, and it was like, okay, buddy, I think I get the hint now. And so, even though I've been thinking about it for a while and kind of been taking steps, like many others throughout the world, Gary, hearing Gary say that made it feel like a call to duty to work for the fungi. And I feel like it really gave me the confidence to do so. But I'm definitely not the only one. Like, just so you know how far Gary's reach was, this is Cauê Oliveira from Brazil. And he never met Gary, but he heard Gary speak through a variety of different like YouTubes, or this was pre-COVID, so there wasn't a lot online, but he did hear Gary speak. He knew of him. He was just passionate for him, and he was so inspired by Gary that he did quit his job and devoted his life to mushrooms, which is, you know, in Brazil, like, you don't really do that. You stay on the path. He already had a good job. He was already going in a certain direction. You don't really stray from that. If you already have something, you keep it. But he made the jump. He made a big risk and did it. And he lives in Brazil. He never met Gary, but now he went back to school and he studies Laetoporus. And he was Telluride Mushroom Festival's winner of the first student Gary Linkoff scholarship, which paid for him to fly from Brazil to the Telluride Mushroom Festival. And some advice, you know, when I talked to some of these people, I asked, what advice would you give to people that want to do it, but may not know or may not be ready? And he said, let's go. He said, devote your life to mushrooms could be a hard choice. People will tell you you're crazy, but if you feel mushrooms call, go for it. You are going down a path of discoveries and you're going down a path of discoveries and teach other people about life mysteries. You will learn every time you go out in the woods looking for them, or if you try to cultivate those strange beings. You will find that knowledge is almost infinite in this hidden kingdom. Try to teach what you learn from them to everyone that comes to you, and just be a fungi. So that was Kawe's. That's a big message from Kawe's. But you know, one thing I will say is that, you know, when I was looking for things, and one thing that I still find people succeeding in this, and this is in like 2013, is, you know, when I was living in the Catskill Mountains, I saw that they didn't have many mushroom resources. There was no club within like hours, miles. And I remember waiting in the High Falls Food Co-op for a friend of mine we were just going to go on a hike, and she was picking up some things. And I was looking at their tinctures, and I realized that they have all these local plant tinctures, and then they had mushroom tinctures coming from the other side of the country. I was like, would you guys want a local source of mushroom tinctures? By that time, I'd been baking them for like a couple of years, and they got really excited about that. And so it was between that, and I was on a plant walk with the Catskill Forest Association. I was just kind of attending and learning about herbs. And the person leading the walk, I guess, got to know me. And as people came up and asked her about mushrooms, she said, I don't know, talk to him. He knows the mushrooms. And then they asked me if I would lead a mushroom walk. And, you know, there's all kinds of opportunities out there, and stipends that, you know, libraries and schools and things like that will happy to pay for taking people in the woods. And it's very different than like kind of a mushroom walk you go on with a club. Like I still go, past president of a club, I still go on a lot of mushroom walks with the club, where, you know, you start the mushroom walk and people just kind of like scatter. They just go and they do their own thing, and they sometimes break off. Sometimes you get like small groups, but when you're leading something, it's more like a class. It's more like we're all going to stick together. We're going to go through these steps and learn all about like this entire kingdom in synopsis. So all sorts of different opportunities. And that was one of the things that I found was really missing. And the more I kind of said that I was doing this, the more people just asked me to do it more. And so that was gave me confidence that it was something that the community really found value in. And so I really just spent my savings creating this company, the Catskill Fungi. And before I delved deep into it, I took a permaculture design course, which kind of laid the foundation for it. Permaculture is a really amazing thing to learn up on, especially as lenses to view the world. But I would just sum it up by saying it's a lens in which no matter what system you're looking at meeting human needs while improving the environment. So it could be social systems. It doesn't have to be farming and gardening. It can be like all different types of systems. So anyway, so that was kind of the foundation for it, was, you know, looking back in 40 years and knowing that not only did I improve the community, but improve the environment. And I'm hoping that if you devote your life to fungi, that would probably be a good bet to also devote to. So, yep, started a company and I sell mushroom stuff at farmers markets and tinctures and things. And I lead a variety of different mushroom workshops, like cultivation. And there were many long days and late nights when working. And honestly, there's nothing I'd rather be doing. And when I wake up in the morning, I just want to work with mushrooms. And there's a joke that my friend said that, I like working for myself because I can work half days and I can choose which 12 hours that is. And it reminds me of a quote that Juliana Furci said. Juliana she's not pictured here, but we'll bring her up later. And she said, I think the key to mushrooms doesn't mean you're doing a relaxed thing. That means no work. That's going to give you money. You have to work as hard as you would any other job and then harder. So 2019 Telluride Mushroom Festival, psychedelic psychotherapist Peter Hendricks presented common lessons that he found psychedelics have the power to teach. And lesson one, and he's not pictured here, that's Britt Bunyard, but lesson one was that we are all drawn to the transcendent, which he defined as a purpose, something greater than ourselves. And mushrooms give us a window into a purpose that is something greater than ourselves. And for many of us, including Gary Linkoff, that purpose is fungi. And we see the divine in mushrooms and the benefits they share and the potential they hold. I think this is at the core to what Gary was inspiring us to devote. And this is why whenever you were out in the woods with Gary, he made you feel like it was the most important place you could be. And looking at mushrooms was the most important thing you could be doing. I think to him it was. Essentially for him it was. And for us it is. And when you find something greater than yourself to devote your life to, it leads to a deep sense of fulfillment. And Gary had that. And he could see it in every mushroom he found. So when you're putting so much hours into the day, into your passion and your purpose, you also have to be careful not to burn out. And my friend Jeffrey Mann, who studied under Dr. David Largent and Dr. Dick Homola, who were both excellent microscopy professionals, really just some of the best. He found his way to teaching fungi in the classroom. He's now a high school teacher. His advice to me was that your most important job is to preserve the resource, and your passion is that resource. So if you're full with your passion, you can climb mountains. And when your passion runs dry, even a speed bump can derail you. So there's finding out how to preserve your passion, preserve that resource is really essential. And, personal practice of syncing with nature and, realizing your principal core values can really help you do that. And so Gary said in an interview with Adam Harriton of Learn Your Land, what did you accomplish in your lifetime? If it is only that you wake up to the total interconnection of all plants and mushrooms, then that's enough. Wake people up to the total interconnection of plants and mushrooms, then that's enough. Be like the mushrooms and grow extra radical mycelium. Translocate nutrients, fruit a colorful mushroom, sporulate the world. Sharing with your community can take many forms. Gary had the New York Mycological Society, he had Coma, he had Forays, he had Telluride, he had his website, and many books. In 2016, I was honored when Gary asked me to contribute to a chapter and edit a chapter in Complete Mushroom Hunter Revised. And I felt like it was really the next level of outreach for me. And I'd like to highlight a few other stories of how people made the leap to quitting their jobs and devoting their life to mushrooms. Now, Britt Bunyard, okay, guy's a doctorate in mycology. Let's not forget that. He's the current executive director of the Telluride Mushroom Festival, but he founded and edits the Fungi magazine that I'm sure like we all get. I mean, right? And we're all, I mean, doesn't everybody have it on their desk right now? So, and the new issue just came out. It's on, you know, now you should have gotten an email in your inbox. Everybody's talking about it on Facebook. Anyway, so, yeah, so he really like, in order to do this, I sat down with him and I asked him like, you know, how did this happen? And he took a big risk to start it. He realized that there was nothing else out there like it. He asked a bunch of people to submit some articles. He got some really great response. And when it came down to like, okay, well, how are we going to pay for the first issue? Everybody got really quiet. And so he sunk his savings into this first issue. He just like dumped it all in there and said, we're just going to print a bunch of these and send them out and just like hope for the best. So it was a big risk that he took on this first issue of Fungi magazine. And he didn't know if it would work or not. But fortunately, people started signing up and got more and more subscriptions. And so, you know, he took a big risk for this, but I just want to say you don't have to take big risks in order to do that. And I talked to, you know, Trad and Olga about their journey through founding Mushroom Mountain. And, you know, Trad worked at a mushroom farm for a few years and he grew mushrooms before opening up Mushroom Mountain. And, you know, their advice was do it, but don't just jump into it. Make a plan, do your research, and skate on two skates for a while. Work your regular job and work your mushroom job. And once you feel like you're making bigger strides at your mushroom job and you know you can support yourself doing so, then go for it. And, you know, when I asked them what keeps them going and motivated during like the hardest challenges, and, you know, when the passion runs dry, it's really about the people around them. You got to have the right people around you. Community matters. And the Mushroom Mountain team is really what kept them afloat from sinking. So you all might know Alex Dorr. He's got Mushroom Revival. When I met Alex, he was working at a mushroom farm in Massachusetts before he was really opening up his own company. But he and Lyra had a variety of different things to say. You know, knowing why you're going to do it, constantly failing forward, like learning from your mistakes. He said, you know, he had one of the first, I don't want to misquote this. He had the first organic cordyceps mushroom growing cultivation farm, I think, in the country. But he was also into like, you know, really absorbing as much information as possible. Drink from the fire hose, share what you learn. And then his partner Lyra also said that, you know, read all the books and twice and really go to the mushroom festivals. Like I really look forward to getting out there and meeting all of you in person at some day. I really do. Because that's really where it happens. You know, you make all these connections. I haven't seen John Plisky in I think since NEMF of like 2019. I haven't seen Leon Chernoff since like Coma of 2015. I mean, and I still have pictures from all the stuff we were finding out there. I mean, these people, and I've never met Michael Quo, which was like, you know, a big deal. And I'm on Mushroom Expert all the time. It's just like, I'm so dearly grateful for him. And his writing style is like, it gets me, it does. It's great. It's really great stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it just like talk about a massive contribution to mycology. I think he's a school teacher, isn't he? Doesn't he teach school? He's not like but
he just retired.
He just retired. Congratulations. That's great. Wow. More time for fungi. I don't even know how he did everything he did. Like, gosh, the website is incredible.
He's hilarious too, by the way.
What's that?
He's hilarious.
Yeah, I'll bet he is.
Funny guy.
Yeah, I mean, just his writing style. It seems like he's got such a good sense of humor. And he's challenged me to find a glow in the dark Omphalatus illudens. I don't know if like he claims that they just don't glow in the dark, despite what you read in all the guidebooks. But I don't know. Maybe it's a West Coast variety, Michael. I don't know. Anyway, so also if you want to check out Mushroom Revival podcast, they're really good. Like tons of different. I mean, I think they have over 100 podcasts of all these different mycologists. Really, really fun to listen to, and you can learn a lot there. But I think Alex owes a lot of what he's accomplished, well, at least with cordyceps, to William Padilla Brown, who was the first person to teach a cordyceps cultivation class in North America. He taught Alex how to grow cordyceps originally. And I talked to Will. Oh God, we just had such a great time. He was just out here staying on the futon, and we found a new cordyceps with Joao up in the Catskills. It was really fun. Anyway, so when I asked him about his journey, he said at the age of 19, he was eating a lot of magic mushrooms. He was inspired to learn how to grow them. And through this, he found a sense to be close to what you're eating. And then that led him to permaculture farming. And he was a server at a restaurant with a kid. And so starting growing mushrooms slowly in his basement. And, you know, he needed a little extra money. He would, whenever he made extra money from growing mushrooms, he would invest it back into the growing operation. And then he documented on YouTube and would share it. And after reading the books, he decided to meet the people who wrote them. And he asked his community to pitch in to send him to NOFA, New York, to meet Trad Cotter. And one person generously paid his way. And he met Trad in a lobby. It's really kind of serendipitous story of how it happened. But like, he met Trad in a lobby and talked to him all weekend. And then, you know, Will started his own festival in Pennsylvania. And, you know, it was hard for him to get to that first festival because of the expense. And so, and some of these other festivals are much more expensive. So he really wanted to open it up to anybody that could attend or wanted to attend. So he had a hard time paying price tags to some of these festivals. So, you know, he started his own festival, which I think ran this year too, I believe. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to that one either. But when Trad heard about what he was doing, he invited him to speak at Telluride. And that was kind of how he made the jump to Devote to teaching full time. So yeah, when asked, he really said, you know, be original, innovate, do something new. And then when you do something original, you become the person that people want to learn from. So yeah, it was also about starting small and like learn your craft and do it. Wait until you could pay for yourself. And so I thought that was great advice. So meeting all these people, you know, it's like 2017 in Stratton Mountain. The Complete Mushroom Hunter Revised launched, and Gary and I were having a great time singing duets at Nymph and Telluride. Yeah, it was a Hamlet and the Fortinbras Mushroom Emporium. It was like two mushroom growers from Denmark to the tune of Just Two Little Girls from Little Rock. So it's on his website as well. There might be a recording in the archives of Telluride, but it was really great. And we were kind of traveling around. We went to the Adirondack Fungi Fest, which is biannual. It's a lot of fun. And you know, one of the things, like after this, we were really excited, and Neolectra regularis. So just remember when we found that, Gary was just like, this is one of my favorite mushrooms. He got so excited about it. And we were looking at this like little club, and he was just so excited about this one little mushroom that he was so excited about it that like I was excited to learn it. And I think that was the day that I like wrote in my field guide. I was like, I gotta know this one. I gotta know the mushroom that Gary thinks is like one of the best. And I'll bet he did that with he was like that with every mushroom he found. You'd ask Gary like, hey, what's your favorite mushroom? And he would say the one closest to me, like the one that's like in my hand or that I'm like observing at the moment. Like he really, really was all about just whatever was right there in front of him. And he was able to find so many mushrooms just right in his backyard in Central Park. I mean, it's really amazing stuff that he was able to do that. And, you know, and one of the things that I told Gary at that time was that, you know, I really, really wanted to travel with him. We were looking at going to Cuba together. And then there was a Chile trip that was coming up that I signed up for. And unfortunately, Gary passed away before the trip went, 2 months before the trip left. And we went anyway. It became the Gary Linkoff Memorial Foray. Irene came, his wife, and I ended up meeting, you know, a whole new set of friends and a whole new set of, you know, mentors as well, like Juliana Furci, who, by the way, speaking of nymph, and now Julie worked very hard and took big risks, including quitting her job in 2010, devoting her life to her NGO, Fungi Foundation, which is the first foundation devoted to fungi in the world, which has now gone international, by the way, just this past year. And for Julie, it was more risky to stay in something comfortable than to chase her passion for fungi. She had known at 19 years old that this is what she wanted to do. And she didn't want to wake up at 90 years old wishing she had done it. And for her, it was not willing to risk not following her gut and living her life to the fullest. And she credits a lot of her passion to Gary. And the things that are going on with Fungi Foundation today, just from like meeting up with her a couple weeks ago, is amazing. It's really amazing. They've gone international. They're opening, they have a branch here in North America. They have a whole new board now with Paul Stamets and Merlin Sheldrake and a lot of people I'm not remembering right now. They've redone their logos thanks to Will Van Roden. They've done a variety of different things, from taking the fantastic fungi footage and creating, they're at the moment creating modules for a K through 12 curriculum that can be utilized for schools, things like that. So they're doing that. They're mapping some really amazing things of traditional uses of fungi by native peoples throughout the world, from food to medicine, to, you know, all different, to living off the land and all different uses like clothes and stuff like that, and art. And they're creating a world map with all the different cultures and what they've utilized fungi for. It's amazing how many cultures utilize puffballs, not just for food, but for styptics after they're too old. But anyway, she's doing, I don't know if there's any other person in this world that's doing more for fungi alive today. So yeah, very grateful to have met her on that foray, and then also call her a dear friend. By the way, they are going to be having another Chile foray coming up. And so look for that in Fungi Magazine. I'm sure they'll post on it there. Yeah, it's going to be next year. So 2-week trip to Chile. That's going to track a lot of things. So, yeah, I'd like to think that through all that we have learned from Gary Linkoff, that there's a little Gary in each of us. And as Gary would say, like, knowing the name of a mushroom is good, but saying something meaningful about it is even more important. And we put a name tonight on amateur, professional, and expert, but our devotion to fungi is what really counts, no matter what form that takes. Now, mushrooms give us a chance to see something outside ourselves that seems much greater than ourselves. And this is the altruism that mushrooms can teach us. So there are many stories out there of people that have quit their jobs and devoted their life to fungi that I've shared tonight. And there's many, many more that I couldn't even share tonight. And I hope you've heard, I hope you've heard the messages that they have to share. I hope you've enjoyed the evening, and I look forward to hearing your story as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's some resources, of course, some Gary books. There's many more than that. But if you're interested in medicinal mushrooms, these are actually some good books that can help you along. There's a lot of BS out there. And yeah, if y'all want to get in contact with me, that's my info. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. And
Thank you, John.
appreciate
It was a real pleasure to have you speak, especially so close to the Gary Linkoff Memorial Foray, and just to be reminded of what an inspiring person he really was.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much.
Truly. Yeah, all over the world, people are inspired by Gary and will continuously be inspired by Gary. Like through his books, through his writings, through just the stories we tell. And I feel like that's one of the best things we can do, is really, you know, tell the stories of Gary. And I think it's just delightful that y'all have the Gary Linkoff Memorial Scholar, the Gary Linkoff Memorial Foray, because it really kind of brings that out, I'm sure, for people. So yeah, like big kudos to you and the club. And yeah, just so delighted to be a part of this presentation. I'm sorry I couldn't be in person. Believe me, I'm sorry I couldn't be in. I would so much have rather that. But one day we'll all get together again. And,
Indeed.
yeah.
All right. Well, if anyone had any further questions for John, feel free to unmute or put them in the chat. But if not, we'll be jumping into our mushroom ID session that Garrett and Kara will lead. So I'll stall for another couple seconds here, just in case anyone has a question.
I didn't know there's a mushroom ID session included.
Yeah.
Welcome to join us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what we do is if anyone has photos of mushrooms that they want to have identified, or maybe they have a guess at their identity and just want to share them.
Or even just show and tell.
Yeah.
Garrett. Yeah, I'll stop by share until I find my mushrooms. Yeah. Yeah. Great. And thanks again for having me, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for
So
joining us.
it's inspiring to see how amazing how connected your club is. It's really a beautiful thing. Yeah. I'm gonna mute myself.
So anyone got anything for us? Anyone want to show off any foray finds that they had? Garrett, you start. Show me your foray finds.
I have to load them. It takes so long for my internet to work. I don't want to put you guys through that.
That's fine. Anyone else while Garrett's getting his ready?
I could show just like a quick overview of what was uploaded to INAT from the foray. I've got it pulled up.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's a good idea.
So this is the summary page of just what was uploaded to INAT so far, right? So, you know, a lot of folks aren't on here, but we had 268 observations posted representing 166 species. So these are some of the more common things we were finding, and I'm happy to just scroll down the list here. And if Garrett and Kara, you wanted to chime in and say anything, or Richard, you know, you all probably have more to say on this than I do, but I'll just kind of scroll slowly so we can see some of the species.
Well, that U Club's a pretty good one. I checked on iNaturalist and Mushroom Observer, and I checked MycoBank. MycoBank has 0 records of this ever being in Pennsylvania. There are some records from Ithaca, New York, but none from Pennsylvania in any database I could find. So this is a pretty good find, and this is the first one on INAT for the East Coast. And for the for a mushroom observer as well. So I thought this was a really good one to point out. It's so tiny and delicate, and yeah, just really neat.
Tara, did you see that? Did you tell Beth where these were?
What?
Did you tell Beth where these were?
Did I tell Beth where they were?
Yeah.
I don't know if I told her. Did she find some too?
Yeah.
I think I told everybody they were across the creek, but I didn't tell them necessarily say where. Beth, where's hers at?
That's that one, I think.
Here, click on there.
Looks like it was further up the creek.
Hers
Oh,
is
okay.
the next day. She must have come back.
Yep.
Yeah, she must have gone back. Which is cool. I'm glad she was able to find them too. She got that interesting cordyceps as well, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, that was really neat. Yeah. Polycephalomyces or something.
Mm-hmm. I'd never seen that one before. We got fenugreek stock balls. Those are pretty neat. Those ones are one of those ones like, I remember when I first saw one, I was like, is this a slime mold? But yeah, it was not. Oh, the Clavulina castanopes is a good one too. That's a pretty rare one. But yeah, here's the fenugreek stock balls. They're pretty cool. Like Richard found some.
Nice.
Although those actually look like a slime mold.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I think those are actually a slime mold.
Yeah, we'll have to correct them. That can be your job since you noticed.
There, up a little bit. That Clavulina.
Oh yeah.
That's a cool one. That's
Oh, wow.
a pretty uncommon one.
I remember seeing that, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. Hulk pointed it out, and then Plishke was the one who was like, "Oh, that's this, and it's rare." And I was like, "Cool, I'll get some photos." So I found a couple of them as I was walking along. And if you look at this, here, can you click on that again? So that particular one right there, yeah. Nope. Yeah. Okay, so you see at the base of this here, how there's some hairs on it, and how it kind of, maybe this isn't the best one. I swear I have better photo. Was it this one? One of them had a better photo. That's the one.
Oh yeah.
There it is. You see those little hairs there? Do you see how this kind of like looks a different color than the top? It almost looks like there's like an area, a zonation where it changes.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of like kind of sets it off to let you know what it is. But yeah, and I John pointed it out and said that that's what it was, and then I looked it up, and I think he's right. I mean, well, he's John, so you know.
That's the other John, not John Michelotti.
Right, John Plishke. Oh, what's that? Purple edged lute. I didn't see that. Hey, no one showed me that.
I found that one.
That's
Yes,
cool.
Steven showed me that. Thanks for showing me it, not her. Yeah.
Hey, you have enough observations. Wow, is that beautiful?
It's a huge one.
Wow.
That is huge.
That's pretty cool. I don't think I have that. I'm pretty sure I don't.
It was really beautiful in the hand.
Okay.
It was like these yellow and purple colors that were like really
Wow.
hard to explain.
Are the gill edges staining on that? Is that what do I see that there on this one?
It was kind of tough to see, but I think you can, at least on the smaller one.
Neat. Very cool.
Yeah, it was marginate, the gills.
Very pretty.
Now, did you ever have a chance to shine the UV light on it? Or did you forget? It's on the table and
yeah, I don't think it came home with me.
yeah, shoot.
Yeah, what species reacted to your fluorescent lights? I just
Callistosporium seems to light right up. obviously Rusula, but Lacaria, Lacaria turns purple, and a lot of Entaloma are blue, purple, blue, I guess. Entaloma
Nice.
does as well. A lot of Entaloma,
Nice.
little ones.
Mm-hmm.
And Callistosporium, though, they're like bright green or different colors, but actually they're one of the more interesting things because they do have different colors depending which species. And there's a few, like there's only ever that one in the books, or maybe the yellow one, or
You
one
want
of the
to
others in the books, but there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
wait? Scroll up a little bit, Stephen.
Nice.
That So is this the pink Coricium that we saw? Is that observation showing the pink one? Because that was pretty cool. I think people would like to see that.
Oh yeah.
That was gorgeous. Nope, that's the other one.
Yeah.
So cool.
Timberoni, or I think it was Timberoni, at one point was asking me to pay attention to the pink ones, and like, he was thinking it might be a different species, but I don't know. I just like today picked some of that off mushroom log I inoculated, and one's like white and the other one's pink. And I don't know if it's like habitat or
There's Steve.
or what, but I don't know. Has anybody else noticed that? Y'all think it's
I don't know. One of our club members was actually going. I gave him a piece so that he could cultivate it. He said that he saw before that somebody tried to cultivate a pink one, and it was pink at first, but then it turned white when it got older.
yeah.
So it doesn't really stay pink. So he's going to try and see what happens with it as well. And wouldn't be hurtful to get DNA on something like that.
Yeah. True.
But yeah. Steve, you want to go to that blackened shield one? Black Age Shield. Where'd Steve go?
Oh, he's got to share his screen again. Oh, somebody's in line, yay.
Oh, we got someone. All right.
Well, it seems like Steven might be having